Hey, what's up everybody? This is Josh, and I'm going to try to make this video as compatible as possible with the average person. And that's what I've always tried to do with my videos. I had a discussion with someone the other day about this, about big words and how when we start using a lot of scientific terms, we lose people. And I know this because I'm pretty familiar with a lot of scientific terms and a lot of big words. But when a person uses them consistently throughout their what they type or what they say, I tend to get lost in the details. The brain's trying to assimilate, okay, this word and this word, how do these go together, and why is he using this instead of this? That's totally beside the point of this video, but I wanted to make that clear so you can understand where I'm coming from when I say that modern science, modern astronomy, modern physics is really letting us down. And I heard someone make a good point today when they said that science should be, or should I say, physics should be simple. We have complicated it with very large projects trying to explain what everything is. A good example is the Large Hadron Collider that they built in Switzerland. That thing, can't remember, I think it was something exorbitant amount of money, either $3 or $30 billion. It was a lot of money from what I remember. And the whole goal of this thing was to find this missing particle, the Higgs boson, which was theorized to be the missing link in understanding how our universe works. This arrogance, to me, beyond the other uses for this collider, the arrogance to think that we're going to make nature fit what we want to find, it leaves a lot to be desired. But at the same time, we're starting to understand that we will find what we're looking for, no matter what. And I'd like to explain that further because it's a point that I think is hard to understand for me and for anyone I've talked to about this. The observer effect, that scientifically when you're observing things on the quantum level, the way you determine the outcome will determine the outcome. What you expect to see happen often does happen on the quantum level, such as seeing light as a wave or a particle. And if you want to look further into that, you can check out the double slit experiment. Just Google it and you'll find it. And there are some very interesting ways in the way that things work on the quantum level. And with the electric universe model, which to me I take it wholeheartedly to the extent that everything is electrical. Every time you contact, you touch your two fingers together, they're not actually touching. There's never any matter actually touching. No matter actually touches. Matter doesn't really exist anyway, and I'll get back to that. But the electrons that are surrounding the neutron are vibrating each other's force fields when you touch. The neutron is what we might consider the actual solid matter, although we think that contains quarks and it goes on and on and on. We don't really know what happens at this level. So our mathematical theories have us very convinced that we know what we're talking about. That's fine. The problem is that if math really is the language of science, if math is the language of the universe, then we have to stop twisting the results to fit our models of what we expect to find. And I don't believe in the Big Bang Theory. I don't believe in dark matter. And I also, there are a few things that I'm unsure of, but those are the two big ones that I have found preposterous since I first heard of them. They were ones that didn't resonate with me, okay? And being scientifically, yet consciously and societally minded, I try to have a wide variety of the way that I see the world. I say, hey, this doesn't fit, there must be a reason. And in my heart, the Big Bang Theory just never felt right. I never had any scientific understanding to back up why it couldn't happen. And if you try to discuss this with someone and try to bring up the theory that, say, the electric universe, they will say, oh, it's pure pseudoscience. That word has lost any credibility. It's basically, in my eyes, by saying pseudoscience, it's a way of saying this is science that doesn't agree with what we already know, so let's throw it out. That's bogus, and that's totally unproductive. in looking towards a future where we can understand. Now, simplicity is the key, and many people have stressed this in the past. We have complicated things so much that we forget that you can observe nature around you and get a great grasp on what things are. For example, if you want to know what's going on at the microscopic level in crystallization, you look at a large crystal. And there are many different aspects to this which I could never cover. And I'm not a scientist, so I'm not trying to sit here and say I know the answers or I know what's right. I'm just a person who's put a lot of love into understanding the world around me and finding things that resonate with me. I like to share them. So I wrote down a couple of things because I didn't want to miss anything. I was listening to a few videos earlier. They were talking about sunspots and how the sunspot cycle is very low right now. Now, I've been watching, suspicious observer videos for quite a while now, and we all know, anybody who is interested in space news or space weather knows that we are at another minimum, and we shouldn't be. The sun is at a very low cycle right now. Now, the prevailing theory in my mind, the one that I've heard that really is something that I've developed my own thought patterns in the past about how the Earth deals with problems. And the whole global warming issue is a very touchy subject, which I won't even get into. I'm not going to argue whether or not humans are causing global warming. The point is that something is happening to the planet. It's a matter of what is it, and is it natural, and can the Earth mitigate the differences that are happening on the planet in order to preserve life? In other words, is the Earth conscious of what's going on, and will it fix itself to save us? And this leads into the Gaian theory, Gaian hypothesis, which you can only go so far on before people say, oh, you think that you're talking about God and pseudoscience and spirituality. My belief is that sunspots are a direct magnetic connection. We've talked about, people have said portals, there's these portals in space to the sun and to the Earth. We don't understand how all this works. So what we do is we have to tackle what we do understand, which is that the ancients understood that astronomy related to personality. This is where astrology came from. This is where astrotheology came from. All the ideas that as above, so below, and that we resonate with the heavens, and that what happens here happens there. The idea of quantum non-locality, where two objects communicate at the same time across vast distances. It's an endless search to understand how these things work, but we have to keep it simple and observe what's around us. What do we see? My example is the Big Bang. I don't believe the Big Bang. Why? Because something came from nothing. And by observing nature, I see that something always comes from something. So one would be led to believe that something was always there. That's a very simplified version of why, the things that I think, but it's very complicated, very hard to make it not simple. Anyway, I have this other thing here. Yes, the random scouring to make their theories fit. And I wanted to say that science is great. Science has brought us many great things. But unfortunately, if you don't fit the status, if you don't fit the paradigm and you don't agree with the theories, then you are an outcast and you lose your funding. And when scientists want to make something work, then they scour and scour and scour until they randomly find things that fit their theory, omitting anything that doesn't. And a true scientist needs to find one thing that counters his argument and throw it out, because if it doesn't agree with every side, you can't just pick and choose. This is not science. That's called twisting the results. And I wrote this thing, I was saying, what is the purpose of lying for scientists? Because some people say, why would scientists lie? Well, A, you lose your funding if you try to speak the truth quite often. B, because you make more money, which would be in the same thing, I guess. To preserve theories, because they're afraid of breaking a paradigm, because one new idea might destroy 10 others. And this is already happening right now. And fear of ridicule, of course. So, I guess I didn't write down much. There's no point. This all comes from the heart, and I can't really write things down and remember what I was thinking at the time, but it's really funny because if you're a conscious human that's paying attention to what's going on and you look at the evidence that's presented by the electric universe theory, if you watch the Thunderbolts movie, and if you can't find some resonance in there, then I would say either you just don't understand the material or you're trying to believe something else. And that's one thing I've found, is that a lot of people are trying to support old thoughts and beliefs. And if it's not even your theory, then why do you have to believe it? And that's been the big issue. A discussion I had the other day about black holes, where a person was defending them, and I said, we just don't know what they are. We know there's a gravitational pull. We have radio telescopes. But people just buy it. Hook, line, and sinker. Everything that science throws at us, we just believe it. I've been watching Cosmos, the new Cosmos, which is a redo of the 80s Carl Sagan Cosmos. And, it's disappointing. Because there's some really great stuff in there that's fun to watch, and some great illustrations and understandings of the things that we do know. But it's got Neil deGrasse Tyson in there, and he's a really funny guy, but he's stuck in that paradigm, just like the rest of them. And, gotta check the time. Yeah, the whole show is just fascinating to watch, and it gives you much new information that you may not have known, but at the same time, it's sticking with those old beliefs. And it's like somebody said that it's just like replaying what we thought was true in the 80s. And many of the scientific theories of today have been around for hundreds of years. And just like geocentricity, we thought the Earth was at the center of the universe for thousands of years. We found out it wasn't true, and finally people had to believe it. And the implications of an electric universe are vast. And I feel like at a time in our lives soon, we're going to see something in the sky that's going to show us that this is a possibility and that this is a legitimate way to look at the universe. Science isn't going to be able to argue against an electric universe very much longer. And I'm just glad that that I didn't jump on some bandwagon. I really looked at this electric universe thing from a distance for the last couple of years, and did my research before I jumped on and said, oh yes, this must be true, because we're always trying to grab what the next big thing is. And I firmly believe that the truth is rooted in everything being electrically connected. So, peace everybody, and let me know what you think down below.